The often forgotten story of Wilmer, Lil Axe, Broadnax sheds a very bright light on a controversial topic that a lot of people don't want to recognize, which is the intersection of religion and transness. And also, Black trans women have been overrepresented on my page because she is me and I am her. But I do want to make a concerted effort to also center Black and brown trans men because I feel like they oftentimes get looked over. That being said, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Wilmer was born in Houston, Texas. There's been a lot of speculation online regarding which year he was born. Some sources say 1916, other sources say 1920, but the majority consensus says in or around that time within that 4-year span. Now, there isn't much information about Wilmer's childhood, but we do know that his family was relatively accepting, at least accepting enough for him and his brother William to create this illustrious career alongside each other without anyone knowing. Wilmer and his brother got their start as a St. Paul gospel singer in Houston, Texas. Shortly after, they moved to LA and joined the Southern Gospel Singers, which lasted through 1939, 1940 until they went in their own direction and formed Lil Axe and the Golden Echoes. They performed, toured, and traveled throughout the 40s and gained a lot of notoriety with their rendition of When the Saints Go Marching In, You Are My Sunshine, and Lord Have Mercy. Lil Axe and the Golden Echoes eventually disbanded in the late 1940s, and Wilmer went on to do a bunch of very career-defining collaborations. He had collaborations with the Fairfield Four, the Five Blind Boys, which was a highly regarded group in that time that a lot of people would consider the golden age of gospel. Saddest part about this story is the ending. He lived out his life in a relatively non-eventful fashion until he was in his 70s when his girlfriend Lavinia Richardson, after an argument, took it upon herself to take his life. He passed about a week later, and then in his autopsy revealed that he was assigned female at birth, and it shocked the gospel community. I just find this story to be so interesting as a trans person who is religious or believes in a higher power. And being like a Black person who's also Baptist and also Christian and lives in the South, like you almost have to live stealth in order to practice, that is. Because if you don't, then you're often like gatekept and ostracized in these religious spaces because a lot of people who occupy these spaces feel that your inherent existence is a sin and an abomination, and they shouldn't even be like in proximity of you. I think stories like Lil Axe's really helps to normalize trans people in society because the people who got to experience Wilmer Broadnax got to experience like the content of his character because they weren't roadblocked by his transness. What I mean by that, and I don't want to ramble, is I oftentimes prefer for people not to know that I'm trans before I meet them so that they don't come to the meeting with like these preconceived notions. The fact that this person preached the word, was a contributing member to society, and the only bad thing or negative thing they have to say about him is that he was born female, I think there's power in that. Because once they've met you and they've grown to like you and they understand your traits, they then have a hard time placing the stigma and the stereotypes that surround and further disadvantage trans people in society on you. Good night, y'all.